So my topic today is ecological validity. It's based on a paper I published in Communication Methods and Measures in 2017. And if anybody's interested in that paper, I'd be happy to send you a PDF. So one focus of interest is just in defining ecological validity. I think there's oftentimes confusion between ecological validity and external validity. But as I'm thinking about these, I don't think they're the same thing. So external validity, at least as laid out classically by Campbell and Stanley, has to do with the extent to which findings are generalizable across participants, across settings, and over time. So when we do studies with college students, we wonder if they would apply to practitioners. Or we do study with a mock crime setup, we wonder if it would apply to a cheating setup. Or if we read a study from a decade ago, we wonder if it would hold today. And generally speaking, the more robust and generalizable the findings are, the more external validity they have. I think ecological validity is something different because it doesn't seek generality per se, but rather it seeks applicability to a particular context. So I might define an ecology, at least as relevant to social sciences, as a complex interdependent relationship among people and their physical and social surroundings. And what ecological validity strives to do is study social phenomena in the contexts that are similar in essential features to how the phenomena are enacted and experienced outside the lab. External validity then is the extent to which this is accomplished. Doing this, I think, requires knowing what features are essential about the ecology and which one just aren't results relevant. So in the context, so the standard or typical deception detection experiment. So this is the ecology of the lab. In the ecology of the lab, participants are exposed to some number of communications. It might be as few as one, it might be hundreds. All those communications are equally likely to be honest, truthful, or outright bald-faced lies. And participants are explicitly and directly asked to assess honesty or deception in near real time, either with a dichotomous truth-lie judgment or with some kind of scaling. So I think research over the many years that are covered under meta-analysis show us some features of the lab that don't matter much. At least according to the Bond-DiPaolo meta-analysis, everybody knows 54%. What doesn't matter what medium is being used for the most part. So if you can just hear, we get 53.8%. If we can hear and see audio-visual, it's 54%. Face-to-face is 52.8%. I don't think any of these are meaningful differences, even if they are significant. Unmotivated lies yield accuracy of 53.4% versus motivated lies, 53.3%. Again, not a meaningful difference. It doesn't matter if lies are spontaneous or planned. That's 53.1 versus 53.8. And it doesn't matter if they're kind of non-expert students, 53.3, or experts, which are 53.8. So a lot of things, extensive research has shown, just don't matter. Here are some things that I think might matter more in the context of the lab. What's the ratio of the truths and lies being assessed? Because participants are reliably truth biased, which means they tend to guess true more often than lie. And in the lab, exposes people to communications that are equally deceptive, likely to be deceptive or honest. But this is virtually never true outside the lab. If you think about an extreme example, airport security, if you're screening for terrorists, it might be 1 in a million. In Kim Sirota and my work on lie prevalence, we show that everyday conversation is mostly honest. And when there is deception in there, it's mostly about trivial things, not anything important. In the criminal context, the base rates are very different, depending on whether you're interviewing a witness or a suspect. And I think there's good reason, and I've done a number of studies on base rates and accuracy, to believe that the ratio of truths and lies in the stimulus material matter, and that 54% only applies when there's an equal number of truths and lies. Another thing that probably matters is if people know that they're in a deception detection experiment and are asked to do a truth or lie. Because outside the lab, even in a deception talk, you might not wonder, if you've never met me, how do you know I'm Tim Levine? How do you know I really published this paper if you haven't seen it for yourself? But it probably never occurred to you that I might be an imposter, or I really didn't publish this paper. The idea that communication might be deceptive might not even occur to you, or to people. And this is, of course, the idea behind my truth to fault theory. So I think prompted truths and deceptions might matter. It might matter whether the lies are instructed and randomly assigned, if people are randomly assigned to lie or tell the truth, or if they self-select. Because if you self-select, then you probably have a motive to lie. So there's something you don't want the other people to know. But in the random assignment, the people who are going to take lying most serious might be the most conscientious people who are trying to follow the experimental instructions, and they might be the actual people who are less likely to lie outside the lab. Are there availability of detection methods other than just cues and demeanor? So outside the lab, we have access to a variety of sources of information. There's a well-known study by Park et al. That in actual outside the lab recalled lies, only about 2% in their study were detected in real time based on cues and demeanor. And 98% were things that are unavailable in the typical lab. And then there's the nature of deception. Is it outright lies versus simple omission versus a tiny bit of false mixed in with otherwise truthful, or truthful messages that draw false implicatures? So I think all these things matter. I think there's also different ecologies, and how we would want to design our studies depends on which ecology we're interested in. There's the ecology of everyday situations, everyday conversations. There's the ecology of communication in friendships and romantic relationships and professional relationships. There's the ecology of criminal investigations and legal contexts. And within those, the ecology of witness statements versus suspect statements versus trials. There's the context of mass media and social media. There's the context of security screening. And there's the context of identity deception, in which people aren't who they say they are, and there's some imposters of some kind. And I think each of these is different in meaningful results relevant ways. So I would like to close by just mentioning a few references if you're interested. I started out by mentioning my 2017 paper on ecological validity. That would be a starting place if you're interested in this. If you're interested in the idea of whether prompting or asking people to make truth lie make a difference, I did a paper with David Clare in Human Communication Research in 2019, looking at kind of standard videotapes and face-to-face interaction where there was no prompting. And then another paper using YouTube video clips. If you're interested in those, I'd be happy to send them to you. If you're interested in base rates, I've done a whole series of studies, starting with a 2006 article, where we manipulate the ratio of truths and lies and model that If you're interested in the lie detection methods besides cues and demeanor, the original paper is the Park et al. 2002 paper, and I think there's been at least 7 or 8 replications of that now. And finally, if you're interested in ways to deceive other than outright bald-faced truths, a good starting point would be McCornack et al.'s 2014 Information Manipulation Theory 2.